Yes.
All righty. Well, welcome everyone. We appreciate everybody that is able to join us live and as well as those that are watching the replay. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Um, but I'm so excited to talk about today's topic because this is something that's just very, very near and dear to me personally. And I haven't introduced myself yet, but my name is Anthony Mott. And my wife, Dana, is on here as well. She may be joining me in a little while, but um, who we are is just a little bit about us is we do not come from money. We are not financial experts or financial gurus or anything like that. Um, but I will say that I consider myself a financial literate individual and financially educated. I want to start just by giving a little bit of background because we were not always this way. And granted, I'm so thankful for where we are now in our lives just because of some of the opportunities that we've had that we'll discuss a little bit later. But I mentioned that neither one of us really came from money or really understood finances for that matter in general. And so about 6 years ago, my sister-in-law, Tashina, introduced my wife to this business called Young Living, or this company called Young Living. One of the things that was interesting about that experience is because I was not into oils or anything like that. I told her absolutely not. I was working in the healthcare field and still trying to maybe in that transition or season of life where I was making a transition and deciding what I wanted to do. But the downside of that is usually the money doesn't come with it. So I remember being in a place where we were financially struggling because I did not understand how the system worked. I did not understand what opportunities were available to even just the average American citizen. And I didn't understand what I had at our disposal when my wife signed up with Young Living, not even as a business, but more so even as a product user. So as we go through this information this afternoon or evening, I just want you to pause and just think a minute about where do you see yourself in 5 to 6 years? In 5 to 6 years, do you want your life to look the same as it does today? Or do you want it to look totally different? Because if 5 years ago, someone had told me that our life would look like what it looks like now, I probably would not have believed it. So let's get in. We'll talk a little bit about some information. And then towards the end, if anyone has any questions or comments or anything like that, we'll take that towards the end. So I like this slide here. Now, this slide, you do not have to remember this formula, but it brings out a very important aspect when it comes to finances, and a lot of times we do not think about, and that is inflation. So just by definition, what inflation is it's just the price of goods and services going up year over year. So if you bought a loaf of bread, I know my parents used to tell me about buying a loaf of bread for 75 cents or a quarter or something like that. Bread is now $2. That's inflation, right? So when we talk about finances and building wealth or even financial independence, this could be a problem, right? As usually what we see is we don't see the incomes raise on our 9 to 5 job, but the price of goods and services raises continually each year. So that is problem number one. Problem number two, I'm sorry, let me go back here. This shows a good example here. So if you were making $10 an hour in 2010 and you get a raise to $20 an hour by 2020, you are still making $10 an hour just because of inflation. Some of the benefits that we're going to discuss about owning your own business adds to that perk there that not only can business owners pass that cost of the price increase over to their consumers, but they also have the ability to outrun inflation. Okay. So if inflation is kicking your butt, this can help in that area as well. And then realize that everything that we use every single day, whether it's gas, food, daycare, all of that, it is subject to inflation. But what if you could leverage that to bring additional income into your home or hold on to that money for a little bit longer? That's something to think about. Now, problem number two especially here in the United States, is taxation, right? So I always think that the tax system here, as I learn more about how we're taxed, is very, very interesting. So for most individuals, if you work a 9 to 5 job, they take your taxes right off the top. Okay. I believe here in the United States this past tax year, if you make up to almost, I believe it's $80,000, you pay a specific tax rate. I believe it's 27% of your income that you make for the year, and then you get to live off the rest. Now, something that's interesting about that is usually most people in their 9 to 5 jobs are not making enough money as it is, right? It's usually, I know for us, it was hard to make ends meet. And then you saw Uncle Sam get his cut. And it just really made it hard for day to day living. Now, the other issue that that creates is when taxes take a third of your income right off the top, well, then you have to borrow money for things like cars, schools, to buy a house, things of that interest or things of that nature. But this incurs interest. So that money that the government took from you, tax free and interest free, you now have to borrow from someone else to then pay interest on. So now it's devalued the money that you have coming in even more so. In a sense, you are double taxed and now in debt. Okay. So make a choice today to try to simplify it. Because this was one of the two of the things that once I learned about these in correlation with having a business like Young Living and in network marketing, really helped me to understand how I could give my family an instant raise that same year and potentially make more money over the course of the following years. So we'll get a little bit into that as we move on. But our mission here is to empower you with confidence, hope, and the tools necessary to reach your dreams and financial goals. This is for everyone, okay? I think something that's very interesting, and this is why this slide kind of sticks out to me, is that sometimes we may not feel that we are worthy of success. We may not feel like we are worthy to have financial independence or financial wellness. In fact, many of us may have grew up in a household where just the very topic of money kind of was a taboo subject. And still to this day, I run into people that are very, very uncomfortable in talking about money just because we feel like we should not have it. Right? But I want individuals and everyone here to realize that that's simply not the case. You are worth more than what you think and believe right now. It's just a matter of, will you take the steps to do it so that you can be successful and be financially independent? So dream big. Think about what did you want to be when you were a kid? Think about the things that brought you happiness, the things that you enjoyed, that if money were not an obstacle, you would be doing. What would that look like for you? Write out that dream and look at it every single day. Because as we get into talking about network marketing and what's possible, all of these possibilities, that is going to be a huge propellant, so to speak, for those dreams and ambitions. Now, I do think this is very interesting as well as we talk about that, just because a lot of times we have taken on jobs or gone in specific career fields that necessarily do not fulfill us, but we do it because in our eyes or in someone else's eyes, they told us it was a good job. Or maybe it provided some kind of quote unquote job security. Well, I'm sorry to break that news to you. There's no such thing as job security. Just to give an example and not to be overly morbid, but one of the jobs that I worked on a few years ago, one of the young men died on the job. And they sent us home for the day. This was around 9:30 in the morning. And they called us in the evening and said, okay, everybody report back to work tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. for start time. So if something were to happen to you today, that job that you work for, the person that you work for, could and most likely would replace you tomorrow. So having a dream and having a big dream is very important because our jobs are, I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat here too. Um, our jobs are a necessary part to a certain extent. They are a great jumping off point, but they may not be where we want to end up in our life. So think hard about what would you be doing if money were not an obstacle for you, and write that down. So as we transition, we're going to transition now and talk about why network marketing is such a great model, why this business model is maybe a fit for you. Okay. Um, and that is because of these two things here. First, you are able to be your own boss. And also you can create this thing called leverage. Is anybody familiar with what leverage is? If you are, please drop it in the chat. But once I learned these two concepts, it really helped me to understand why something like network marketing is such a wonderful business model. And let's dive into that a little bit more. So just to give you an example, we're going to look at an example of a real estate agent and a real estate broker. Now, right now, the housing market is booming. A lot of people are buying houses, and so there are a lot of people trying to get into the real estate field. That's probably for this specific reason that we're going to discuss here. I think this is a good example. So let's look at the real estate agent first. Real estate agent, they meet with the clients, they show homes to the client. When that client then wants to put in an offer, they handle all the paperwork, right? They do the open houses. And then when everything is said and done, and hopefully that person ends up purchasing that home, right? They then take a commission off of the price of the home, right? So sometimes, or whatever that difference is, sometimes up to 50%. That's not a bad gig, right? A lot of real estate agents, especially if the market is doing well, they do pretty well for themselves, right? But what if you could be the real estate broker? And just to give you some perspective, I am going to kind of liken the real estate agent to a person who's self-employed, or maybe you work a 9-to-5 job. Think about all the things that you do on a regular basis, every single day, that seems like it's a lot of work physically, mentally, emotionally, to get paid at the end for that specific effort, right? But the real estate broker runs the real estate agency. So what does the real estate broker do? He goes out and employs and partners with many real estate agents that then go out and they do the selling of the homes, they do the open house, all of the things we mentioned in the previous slide, right? And the real estate broker gets the building, he has the broker's license, he pays for the overhead, but he has created this thing called leverage. So he's no longer self-employed, so to speak. He's no longer doing all the work himself, getting paid just for that one job. He actually takes a percentage of the cut from the real estate agents, and that's what helps him create leverage and wealth, okay? So when we think of how that applies to network marketing, we are able to become, quote unquote, the real estate broker, okay? That way we're not spinning our wheels, so to speak. In fact, this is the only profession that offers us time freedom, the ability to leverage not only our time, but our income, and become financially independent, okay? What are some of the benefits? What are some of the reasons why? Well, multi-level marketing, or network marketing as it's referred to commonly, it has a low startup cost. So remember that example that we talked about with the real estate agent and the real estate broker? If you wanted to go out and start your brokerage, you had to pay money for the building up front, right? You had to pay to do all of the advertising, and whatever the initial startup cost is, tends to be substantially higher. So when you think about that, this is a barrier to entry. A lot of people tend to want to start businesses, but because it's so expensive, they may not be able to start one. Multi-level marketing has a low startup cost, makes it a lot easier to get into, has low overhead. So typically with network marketing companies, they may have a great product, which I always encourage you to be a product of the product. Don't get involved with a company where you don't like the product. But typically they require you to purchase the product that you are advertising or marketing for every single month. And typically that's it. So low overhead. What other businesses do you know that you can get involved with that have a low startup cost and low overhead? You can't even sell things on eBay and get that perk, okay? Because you still have to maintain inventory. How about tax advantages? So I think this one is huge. This was one of the I don't want to call it a deal breaker, but this is kind of what really pushed me to start looking at network marketing and taking it seriously. Now, I am not a CPA or an accountant, so I always encourage you to check with your CPA or accountant for your specific tax situation. But remember, we talked about earlier how our tax system works here. Does everyone know that our tax system was not created to be fair for the working individual? It was actually created to be more advantageous for the business owner. So that 30% that they're taking off the top of your check every single week, it's because you're an employee. As a business owner, though, you get access to many tax advantages, including the fact that you can choose when you pay your taxes. So you either pay them quarterly or you can pay them annually, depending on your tax situation. But you are able to make your money, invest it into your business, spend it on the things that you need to survive, and then pay taxes on what's left over. So in this scenario, this allows you to give you and your family a raise, so to speak, because there are many tax advantages that you can take place or take advantage of, especially here in the United States. You also have extraordinary income potential to fight inflation. So one of the big things that we've seen throughout the last year is the fear with everything shutting down. What is that going to do to inflation over the next 3 to 4 years? What is that going to look like? And we're already seeing it with gas prices, right? I believe last year, our gas prices here in Michigan got down to under $2. Now it's creeping back up to $3, and they're talking possibly $4 a gallon this summer. So how are you going to fight that inflation? How are you going to fight the rise in the cost of goods and services? Multi-level marketing is a great tool to be able to do that. And then you also receive education and training. And I think this one is really huge too, because sometimes we overlook the value of education and training. I can honestly say in my 6 years of being involved with Young Living and network marketing has allowed me to develop skills that I never would have imagined I would ever have. It has allowed me also to make myself more marketable in all of our other income stream pursuits. And I feel like it has also just made me an overall better individual, right? So I love being around like-minded individuals that are all about growth, self-advancement, and just trying to do better in life. And that is one of the perks of being in a network marketing company as well as a community. So a lot of advantages there. But I wanted to transition now as we look at this slide to kind of just give you a better idea of why the network marketing model is so much better. And a lot of times people really confuse network marketing with sales. I hear that quite a lot, right? They're like, I want to do the business, but I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell. I've worked in sales. Network marketing is totally different, okay? You see some of the reasons listed here. You only get paid one time off of your efforts. So I remember working for a company and we actually had to, it was it's funny that now I'm part of Young Living and probably wouldn't do this now, but we sprayed pesticides on people's lawns. I work for a lawn service company. And not only did we have to sell the person, but we also had to do the service. There was no perk to selling the individual, which is why typically we wouldn't do it, right? You also only have linear growth. So it didn't matter whether you were an excellent salesman or a really poor one. Um, they still mostly kept their jobs because it was only going through the motions that was required for that field. You must increase your volume to increase sales. This is a big one for a lot of companies. Any company that's involved with sales, they have to be able to scale up their production or the amount that they distribute in order to stay in business. Why? Because of overhead, because of having to hire more employees to sell your product, because of inflation and having to raise the price to stay in business. So if these things do not get done, the sales field is not successful. And at the end of the day, when everyone is firing on all cylinders and creating all of these sales, only one person benefits. Think of a good example is Jeff Bezos. Even though he's no longer the CEO of Amazon, he built an entire company from the ground up. Amazon employees and the website do all the sales. And what does Jeff Bezos get to do? He gets to collect billions of dollars each year. What if you could be in a position similar to Jeff Bezos and leverage and have other people working with you, though? That's where networking comes in. So you get paid for what we naturally do, referrals. I'll give you an example. I purchased a Tesla Model 3 last year, which was my dream car. One of my goals that I had put in front of myself that I was able to accomplish and was really happy about. Tesla actually does not do traditional marketing. They don't do commercials. They don't do ad campaigns or anything like that. But Tesla has gone on to become one of the largest and most successful car making companies in recent history because of their model, and they completely rely on word of mouth marketing to sell their vehicles. In fact, Tesla says that if you tell somebody about their car and you give them your referral code, we'll give you free 1,000 miles of driving, and they'll get a free 1,000 miles of driving. And so that spurred a whole community and a whole movement, and what was part of what made Tesla so successful. I love the network marketing model because that's exactly what Young Living offers as well. You can get exponential growth and leverage, right? Just for sharing something that you already do. And like the broker, you help others first, and you benefit on the efforts of multiple people. Okay. So that restaurant that you go to and that you love, that you're telling all your friends about, they're not going to send you a thank you check when your friend goes to the restaurant, but Young Living will. Having like-minded individuals and helping others reach their goals and seeing them succeed is the best feeling in the world, right? And your growth is not solely dependent on you. That's why having a team and leveraging your team and working with individuals is so, so important. Network marketing benefits. So everyone is at the top. One of the common things that we hear is, oh, is that one of those pyramid things? Well, for a pyramid scheme to be, well, let's start at the top. Pyramid schemes are illegal, first and foremost. But with a pyramid scheme, typically only the person at the top makes all the money and the people at the bottom do not. Network marketing is one of the few fields that are available that you can make more than the person that referred you to the company. You get to decide your income, give yourself raises and bonuses. It's just a matter of how hard do you want to work for it? How much effort do you want to put in? How much money do you want to make this month, next month? What could you do with an extra $200, $300, $500 in your pocket every single month? Sometimes people scoff at that, but an extra $500 to $700 a month can completely change your income bracket and what you're able to accomplish. That's a car note. That's paying some of the other bills around your home. Now that things are starting to open up, that's a vacation, right? If you could put $500 to $700 away every single month, in addition to what you make on your 9 to 5, that's a nice vacation. And your income and success is not dependent on where you are in the network or when you get started. So we don't have to worry about oversaturation. In fact, here in Michigan, with particularly Young Living, I remember asking that question because we kept running into individuals that were like, oh, my friend uses Young Living. So in my mind, first thing I thought, I'm like, oh, everybody knows about Young Living. There's no point. Young Living only has a 3% enrollment rate here in Michigan. And granted, we are growing, but there is room for so much more growth. So there's never been a better time to get involved with a company like Young Living or in network marketing, because no matter when you get started, you can still be successful in this business. Does anybody recognize who these individuals are? Well, if you don't, that's Brandon Bouchard on the left, Robert T. Kiyosaki on the bottom, Rachel Hollis on the top, Gary Vaynerchuk on the right, and Warren Buffett on the bottom right. All of these people, in my eyes, I would consider them to be huge successes. You know what they all have in common? They all have promoted the business model of network marketing. They recognize just not only how stable it is, but how great of an option it is for an individual who's looking to make more money, to change their family's lives, and to also create financial freedom for you and your family. So if these individuals, and I love Robert T. Kiyosaki on the bottom, he's wrote a few books. Yeah, thank you, Tashina. She put it in the chat. He's written a few books that actually deal a lot with finances, like Cash Flow Quadrant and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Some may be familiar with, but it is one of he recommends network marketing as being one of the bridges that is able to take you from where you currently are. You can see him pointing to those quadrants to where you'd like to be in life. So I recommend his book if you haven't read it. Cash Flow Quadrant is a great one, as well as Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But it is a highly promoted business model. So what are some things that you should look for in a company? Well, consumable products that work. Young Living has those. Why do you want consumable products? Because when you have a consumable product, people use it and they typically have to come back for more, right? So this will help keep you in business. Longevity. How long has the company been around? Do they have a strong and stable company? Are they publicly traded? Have they had any huge issues with the Better Business Bureau? These are things to investigate and look at. What is their residual income opportunity, right? Because that's what we really want, right? We want to make what they call Swiss cheese, which is money while I sleep soundly. Someone correct me in the chat. I know that's not 100% correct. I can't remember the first S. But when you're able to create residual income, you're able to free yourself up from time commitments that take you away from the things that you love, right? So do they have a residual income opportunity? The business can be sold for a profit. So is it willable? Can other individuals, can you sell your business for them to be able to benefit from it as well? What is their monthly reoccurring overhead? I mentioned at the beginning, typically it's very, very low. So what is it? Do you have to manage any employees? And do they provide training and education? Young Living has all of these, right? Young Living has been becoming a better and better company every single year that we've been involved with them. And I love the training and education that they're doing now. I love the training and education we even do even in our team, in our group. So certainly something very beneficial. So why healthcare? Why a company like Young Living? Well, the healthcare industry generates about $2.5 trillion every single year, and it's growing, right? Unfortunately, sickness doesn't seem to be going away. And so the healthcare industry will always be around, right? Now, money spent on alternative healthcare totaled $34 billion out of pocket. So that means the money that was being spent that's not covered by your insurance, or people looking for solutions to healthcare problems, they spent $34 billion out of their pocket, okay? 38% of all Americans have expanded their health spending beyond Western medicine and doctors. So people are finally starting to look at other methods for taking care of their health and wellness. And the top 4 leading causes of death in the US are linked to lifestyle factors and stress. So people really are trending and looking at the healthcare industry. So why not you? So what do you need to get started? What will it require of you? Well, you should be willing to dedicate 5 to 7 hours a week part-time. Now, that's one of the things I love about this industry is that you can start it part-time. You can learn while you earn, so to speak. I remember now by trade, I'm an electrician. And I remember when I got into my apprenticeship program, that was one of the things that appealed to me. I could learn a new craft and still make money at the same time. Network marketing offers you that same ability. So you don't have to quit your job tomorrow. You can start by working 5 to 7 hours a week part-time to generate extra wealth and additional income for you and your family. A dedication of 2 to 7 years of investment, but unlimited earning potential. So I think it's very interesting that in this country, the first thing, and I'm not knocking this, but the first thing that we do when our kids get older and they turn 18 is we say, hey, you got to go to college. You got to figure out what you want to do and get a college degree so you get a good job and then you'll be financially stable, right? Most children or most teenagers typically go to college for 4 years, right? And they come out in debt with an expectation that they now need to buy a home and buy a car. So our society has trained young people to that debt is normal, right? After all that time invested, debt is normal, but you're going to get this great job. Well, I can tell you from experience that is not the case. Okay, that has not been the case, at least for our generation. My wife and I, we came out of college right before, or a few years before the crash of 08, 09. So by the time we were completing college, those jobs that we went for, they went away, they disappeared, right? So when I think of that and I compare it to something like network marketing, if we're willing to send our kids and invest 4 years, 2 to 4 years of training for them to get a career, why will we not be willing to invest 2 to 7 years in ourselves and in our business so that we can have financial freedom and unlimited earning potential? Just makes sense to me. You must be willing to prioritize personal development and growth. This is so key and so essential. This is really one of those businesses where it's very dependent upon you and your personal growth and development. If you are a shy person like my wife is by nature, you can still do this business. It's going to require some personal development and growth. You do not have to become an extrovert, but it will require that you grow as an individual, develop a new frame of mind when it comes to money and finances, and even the network marketing industry. Commitment to training. Like any other profession, you must learn the industry and the skills needed to be successful. So I love the fact that when someone comes aboard and gets started with us, we train them. We teach and train them. We like to sometimes call it ignorance on fire. But as you learn more about the industry and the skills that are needed, you will notice that your success level will continue to grow. A good analogy just to think of is a baseball player. So in baseball, if you can hit the ball 3 out of 10 times, they pay you millions of dollars. If you can hit the ball 1 out of 10 times, they'll still pay you millions of dollars, just not as much as the guy hitting it 3 times out of 10. But as you get better, you can certainly grow from learning how to hit it 1 out of 10 to 3 times out of 10. That's same with network marketing. Learning the industry, you will get better and you'll notice you'll start to grow. Mindset shift. So you'll have to start to view things from a different perspective. I think this was very interesting, especially coming from the mindset of an employee, where you typically get paid for the hours that you work, where your income is capped and limited, right? Because there's only 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week. And even if you worked every single hour, of that week or every single hour in the year, your income would still be capped or limited. I had to learn to think like a business owner, right? So we're used to getting paid for our time, but in network marketing, you get paid for production and what you actually produce. So a little bit of a mindset shift there as well. And also, we need to be able to care about people, right? We're not just sharks, and like we mentioned earlier, we are not salespeople. So we are not looking for individuals to take advantage of, to make a quick buck and then never, ever, ever help them again, right? Especially with something like Young Living, which is a lifestyle. We really want to be able to help as many individuals as possible, make certain changes so that they can achieve not only their health and wellness goals, but also their financial goals as well. So how do you start? Where do you start? You have to take action. You simply have to say, yes, this sounds like something that I would like to do, and get started with Young Living by purchasing a premium starter kit. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier that to be successful in this business, you want to be a product of the product, right? So how else will you be able to tell individuals about how great peppermint or lemon oil is if you've never tried it? Which is why Young Living kind of had their sign up process be this way, so that individuals really could get a taste of a little bit of everything and start to share that with their family and friends. This has a low startup cost of anywhere from $125 to $265. What business do you know that you can sign up for $125? I can't think of any other businesses that is the case. And then sign up for our Subscribe to Save program, right? This is your only overhead. So every month you're going to purchase products to use for you and your family that you're going to love and tell others about that you love. And that's all that the overhead that you have, right? So I encourage you to get back with the person that invited you here this evening. Ask them, how can I get started? How can I become a brand partner with Young Living and really start to use some of these amazing products and take advantage of the network marketing model for you and your family? But that's all that I have for you. I appreciate everyone sticking with me as I like rumble on, because I'm like, finances gets me excited, and I could go on and on and on. But if anyone has any comments or questions that they would like to add, feel free.
Yeah, just for those that maybe came late or didn't see what I put in the chat because they're on the phone. Um, I am an individual who is high income. I'm in the top 8% of income earners in my area for a one person household. And so the traction for network marketing for me is the time freedom. And I am an individual who said I would never be in the automotive industry because I don't want to do the typical thing. And I got a business degree instead of education because it was like, be a teacher, business, be a teacher, more money in business. So I chose business instead of something that I'd be passionate about. And then I got in the automotive industry. That was the best opportunity that was available. And so I'm the individual that has made it, but that comes with the cost. And a lot of that had to do with my health when I was working 60 to 80-hour weeks. And people just accept that, you get 30 plus and you either have high blood pressure or high cholesterol and you just go downhill from there. And I decided that I was going to do something different. And I love the fact that I'm able to do this in pockets of time. I worked a full work day today, and now I'm working on my business by being here. And I love the tax perks because Anthony talked about the 27% up to 80,000. If you go over 80,000, then you pay even more. You pay 40%. When people say tax the rich, they're talking about me. They're talking about people who make six figures. That's when you increase taxes, it goes to me. And by having a business and tax deductions while I'm working on my business and increasing the income of my business, I get to create my adjusted gross income under that 80,000 and avoid getting a lot of those taxes. And that's one of the greatest perks.
Absolutely. So with that being said, if everyone's had their questions answered, I do just want to end on this note. Really give it some thought and some consideration, because I didn't get an opportunity at the beginning to tell our whole story. I like to kind of keep it condensed and short. But a lot of the things that my wife and I have been able to do for our family is because of being involved in a company like Young Living, and being in the network marketing industry. When we've been able to take our family around the country, our kids around the country, and expose them to different things, as mainly as a part of being part of this industry. But also, we've been able to set ourselves up in a financially good space because we have that additional income that's been generated from our network marketing business and continues to grow every single month. So it's very exciting. It is worth the investment. And so I really encourage you, if this is something that you're kind of on the fence about, reach out to the person that invited you and get any of those questions answered. Because the hardest step is to say yes and get started, because there's all of these reasons that we could come up with in our mind why we can't do this. There's a lot of excuses that we can make and say, well, I don't know where to start. I don't have the money right now. But in all honesty, whatever we're passionate about and whatever we really want to pursue, we make it happen, right? We find a way to make it happen. So I encourage you, if this is something you are considering, find a way to make it happen and get started right away, so that you don't delay that process of learning while you earn and just really putting yourself on a trajectory to change you and your family's lives. So I'll end on that note. Um, there's a question here. Would you say the residual income you receive from Young Living is the highest contribution to your overall income, or your opportunities that came from your Young Living business? Okay, so I'm not 100% sure if I understand the second part, but I'll start with the first part of that question. So the question in the chat is, would you say that the residual income you receive from Young Living is the highest contribution to your overall income? Right now, no. Okay. But for me, that's one of the nice benefits, is the fact that this is additional money that comes into our home every single month, because of something that we've chosen to do one time and continue to get paid on those efforts. So, like Tashina, after I finished my apprenticeship, I actually jumped into a different tax bracket and became on that higher end of earners here in, I keep saying the United States. We have a lot of international classes that we do, so I apologize if I keep saying here in the United States. But I actually jumped tax brackets last year, and this year will probably be the same. And so for us to have that additional money, it allowed us to put more in savings. I also have investment accounts that I put money in as well. And it gave me just a lot more flexibility about what we could do with our money by having that additional income. So one of our goals now is, now that we've gotten money as an issue out of the way, is my wife really wants to retire me so I can be home with the family. So that's what our goal is now. That's what we're currently working towards. But just having that additional income makes a huge difference.
So I think the answer to her question really is, it is the opportunities that came from the Young Living business. And I think that's one of the things that we want people to understand and to clearly get, that maybe it seems like for you, your business isn't just going as fast as you would want it to do, or you're not maybe at that level that you see other people in other circles talking about, but you're still going to get business, you're still going to get benefit when you start. You can be at the executive level and that is enough income to get you debt free. You can be at the silver level and a six-figure earner, and that's enough to allow you to vacation in other countries and to do things that you never would have been able to do before had you not been a part of the business. So the only way for you to fail is to make the decision to not start or to quit. So if you get started, you're going to have benefits. You just need to keep going. And if you feel like you're going slower than you would like to, do some more mindset work.
Uh, and I'll also add, I think I understand too that some of the opportunities that she's talking about. I love just some of the things that we've been able to be exposed to, some of the people that we've met, and some of the connections that we've made as a result of just being part of Young Living that has even benefited us. Even some of the financial education that I've received has been by picking the brains and talking to other individuals, even within our industry. So I will say that's a benefit as well. I see Dana's got her hand up. She had something she wanted to add.
Yeah, okay, so I was driving, so I'm not sure at how much of our story that you shared, but I did want to just add the fact that um even something as small for me in the beginning as not having to pay for shampoo, not having to pay for deodorant, not having to pay for cleaning products. So just think in general, how much money do you spend monthly for some of those things? When those are no longer expenses, you automatically have money to put towards more important things. As well as for me, it was things like swim lessons for my kids or things that before we couldn't afford because there was no extra. And so I think just to emphasize one of the things that Anthony was saying is starting even from, to me, star level. Like I think there's so much, to me there's more powerful stories in executive and under than there is necessarily once you get, yes, financial freedom is an amazing beautiful thing, but for some people just being able to pay a car note and have 200 or 300 extra is going to dramatically change the trajectory of that family. And so those things are so doable. It's doable for each and every one of us at a senior star executive level, in just getting started. So I just wanted to kind of just add that little tidbit because I really, really feel like for me, the most important things were I can now put my kids in swim. I don't have to stress about dance class. I can afford to do some of these extra things. And that happened at the very beginning.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I want to thank Tashina for allowing me to host today, and I want to thank everybody for your questions. And that's a good question, Trish. So thank you once again. And like I said, reach out to the person that invited you here, and get started today. And on that note, I am going to say goodbye to everybody and allow you to enjoy the rest of your day. So everyone take care.